I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's Prophecy in the News.
I'm Gary Stearman, and today we're going to talk about the European Organization for Nuclear Research. They're looking for the God particle.
Gary Stearman has written an article for our May 2010 edition of Prophecy in the News magazine on the Large Hadron Collider. He's got a lot of fascinating information here, so stick around. He'll be right back to tell us all about it. On Tuesday, the 30th of March, 2010, a long-awaited announcement was heralded worldwide. The Associated Press put it this way: Geneva, the world's largest atom smasher, conducted its first experiments at conditions nearing those after the Big Bang. Gary has written this article. It's fascinating, filled with a lot of great information, and a picture here of one of the terminals at the Hadron Collider. Gary, tell us about the search for the God particle.
Well, that's what everybody's calling it. The Large Hadron Collider is what this thing is called at CERN, and which is confusing if you don't know the terms. It's pretty simple, really. Hadron would be an atomic particle. For example, the nucleus of an atom. A proton or a neutron would be roughly called a hadron. It's a class of very heavy particles that are bound together by some unknown force called the strong force. And JR, in a few words, the Hadron Collider is attempting to crash these particles together at near the speed of light in order to discover what this strong force actually is. And as well as that, they are looking for a hitherto undiscovered particle which they theorize must be in existence. It's called the boson, or the Higgs boson. And that particle, in conjunction with the strong nuclear force, they say, is what created all the matter in the universe. And that's what they're looking for.
Now, Gary, hadron is a Greek term. Tell us what it means.
It means thick or stout, bulky. It's a particle which is said to be able to interact with energy, to pull energy together and make matter. And so they called this thing a hadron.
So they're wanting a matter maker.
Exactly.
Listen to Hebrews chapter 1. God, who had in sundry times and in divers manners spake in times past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken unto us by his Son, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, by whom also he made the worlds, who being the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person, and upholding all things by the word of his power. I'll just stop right there, Gary. That's the strong force. Everything is held together by the word of his power.
Right. But the strong force, from the perspective of a scientist, is not a person. It's a thing.
Yes.
It's a murky kind of a concept. Now, the word boson is just taken after a man's name. A famous mathematician from India by the name of Satyendra Nath Bose gave his name to this particle, which is called the boson. Another scientist, Peter Higgs, theorized that there is a field of energy which can be captured by the boson and held, thereby creating matter. Now, this is all on paper. They've never demonstrated it, but they have built this gigantic machine, set 5.5 miles in diameter, 17 miles in circumference, 300 feet underground, for the sole purpose of finding the Higgs boson and the strong nuclear force, which they think created the universe.
Now, there was a time when this big collider was going to be built in the United States. Was it Chicago?
Yes.
Was one of the sites, and Fort Worth, I think, was another site. And they finally ended up taking it over to Europe to build it there because they wanted it in international territory, Switzerland.
Switzerland.
So they put it around just northwest of Geneva. It's amazing to me. They did not want any particular country, and so Switzerland said, bring it to us.
Yeah.
We'll let the world use it.
And basically, like Switzerland itself, it's kind of neutral territory located in a little suburb called Myron, just outside of Geneva. And Myron is a city, JR, that's basically devoted to the super collider. Has 2,600 full-time employees, almost 8,000 scientists and engineers from 80 different countries, and 580 universities working there. And because of the need for communication among the scientists around the world, they developed a system whereby they could use their computers to talk to each other. And we now call that system the Internet. In other words, CERN, the place of this nuclear super collider, was the birthplace of the Internet.
According to your article here, you said it originated in 1954. So they've been working on this a mighty long time.
Oh, yeah.
As a center for cutting-edge research into nuclear physics, CERN has become the focus of hopeful scientific speculation into the mysteries of creation, all wrapped up in the massive apparatus known as the Large Hadron Collider. Well, back in the 1930s, they had little small colliders, didn't they? What they called them?
Yeah, they were called cyclotrons. And I've actually seen a photograph of a man holding a cyclotron in the palm of his hand. It's not a very big thing at all, little circle. And they used that to accelerate particles in a circular fashion. And the little one proved the concept, and then they built little bigger ones, sometimes the size of a small room, and then they built one the size of an auditorium, and then they built bigger ones, and now this one is 5.5 miles in diameter. And JR, it fires particle beams at very close to the speed of light, going in opposite directions, so that when these particles collide, they develop unbelievable force. 7 million electron volts, believe it or not. 7 million electron volts.
Wow.
When they collide. Now, the theory
That's 7
behind...
trillion then. 7 trillion
7, yeah.
electron volts.
Right.
Now, they're coming at opposite directions at near the speed of light. That means when they collide, it's twice the speed of light. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible.
Now, what we have here, of course, there are all kinds of theoretical things that we don't dare talk about. They're just too complicated. But to make it simple, scientists are crashing matter together and then measuring the leftover pieces to see if they can reverse engineer the material that was there a split second before the collision took place. And so they watch the pieces, kind of like crashing two cars together and photographing all the pieces flying off, and then running everything in reverse to see what the cars looked like before they struck each other. And from that, you could build a car. Well, that's sort of what they're doing. It sounds strange to us, but that's the only way they've got for tapping into the heart of the atom.
Now, Gary, dynamite is a strong force.
Well, it is.
But it just leaves trash in its wake. When God spoke the worlds into existence, it had an intelligent design to it. How can these people at CERN, or at the Hadron Collider, expect to make any sense out of what they're doing?
Well, it's complicated mathematics. They use tracking devices that track the paths of particles, and through the use of complex formulas, they're able really to see what a particle looked like before it was crushed. And as I say, it's the only way they've really got to look into the heart of the atom. Now, around the circumference, the 17-mile circumference of the Large Hadron Collider are detectors. There are 4 of them, 4 main ones. One's called ATLAS, which is a toroidal LHC apparatus. ATLAS is an acronym. Another acronym is CMS for compact muon solenoid. These things, JR, are the size of a house, these detectors. You climb 2 or 3 stories to get up inside them. They are very, very large detectors. One is called ALICE, and we've got a picture of ALICE in our magazine, so you can see what ALICE looks like. ALICE is an acronym that means...
Just hold your magazine up there. You got it turned right there.
Well, yeah, there it is right there. And right inside the magazine, you can see
that's one of the detectors.
It's a detector. ALICE stands for a Large Ion Collider Experiment. And then there's another one called the Large Hadron Collider Beauty, LHCb. Beauty being one of the attributes of one of the small particles they're looking at. They've given them names like charm and beauty and up and down and all sorts of strange names.
Okay.
So that's the world of the nuclear physicist. Now,
Now, how can they ever control these this collision so as to make it practical?
well, again, that's the stuff of nuclear physics. They've been doing it for decades now, and they've got it down to a fine science, although they've never seen the strong force, the force that holds everything together. And you read from Hebrews a moment ago.
Yes.
And we know as Christians what holds everything together by the word of his power. Let's face it, it's the Lord. He spoke the universe into creation. But suppose for a moment you're not a Christian. You're not a believer in God. You are a believer in science.
And evolution.
Yeah, and evolution and so forth. You've got a problem. And your problem is that you feel out of control. You feel as though you don't really have a handle on the world. Anything could happen. An asteroid could crush the earth. Volcanism could destroy life on the face of the earth. You've got all of these things that could happen. It could be disease, like some raging epidemic. It could be earthquakes, massive earthquakes, as Jesus said, in divers places. People are living in fear, and the thing that combats fear is a sense of being in control. How can you put yourself in control? By learning the secrets of creation. Hence, this huge machine. You know, it reminds me of the Tower of Babel, really, because if you recall, after the flood, men had this same fear. They wanted to get back to heaven and get some sense of control in their lives, so they built this huge tower. And God said, you know, if they complete this project, they'll be able to assail the very heights of heaven. We've got to confuse their tongues to stop the project. They had an international project, just as CERN is an international project. Wow. And the purpose is much the same, to discover the mysteries of creation.
Well, Gary, that makes CERN and Europe a lot like Mystery Babylon.
It does.
In fact, the woman that rides the beast is called Mystery Babylon, and today her name is Europe. So, I mean, Europe wants to be Mystery Babylon in the worst way.
Well, you know, that beast in ancient mythology was Zeus in the form of a bull, and the woman, her name was Europa, they call her over there, and she rides the beast. We see her in prophecy. Yeah. But here's the interesting thing about CERN and the Nuclear Research Center over there. There's a lot of superstition that surrounds it. For example, when they first tried to run it, they experienced explosions in the cooling lines because this thing runs at such high energy levels it requires massive cooling. They have freon lines that are miles long. Well, on the first run, the lines blew, and at a cost of hundreds of millions of dollars, they had to replace miles of freon line. They had to replace brackets and pumps, and you can hardly imagine what they had to do. And right away, people said, and this sounds strange, but superstitious people said, well, Gaia, Mother Earth, did not want these scientists discovering her secrets, so she sabotaged that super collider in order to keep her secrets. People were actually saying this. One man cited a bird flying into a cooling apparatus during the first run of CERN, and purportedly that bird flew in and short-circuited some things and caused a pump failure, which then caused a cascading failure throughout the unit. And a number of people seriously proposed that nature had sent the bird there to stop the scientific exploration of the secrets of the planet. So you've got a kind of an illuminist, hierarchical, mysterious, esoteric, occult belief system blended in with a scientific system in one place on Earth called CERN. It's kind of fascinating that CERN was even used as a movie prop once, where men were searching for the secrets of creation. And so they presented CERN as a motion picture idea of some sublime, subtle mystery. This is where science and superstition meet head to head.
Were you talking about the movie Angels and Demons?
Yeah, Angels and Demons.
The Tom Hanks movie?
Right, in which I think the opening...
Where a rogue priest got a hold of this vial of matter, antimatter type stuff from the Hadron Collider and took it to Rome and was going to blow up the city. Fascinating.
And so, in a sense, then science becomes the enemy of creation, or there's this giant battle raging in the universe between science and creation.
So what we've really got here, Gary, in the Hadron Collider is alchemists.
Alchemy, absolutely. The ancient dream of alchemy was to change lead into gold, or some very low or base substance into a higher substance. For the purpose of controlling nature, also for the purpose of making money. Let's face it, you can make a lot of money if you can create gold. But the idea here is that scientists want to acquire the ability to create and tailor-make matter out of nothing. That would be an accomplishment.
So they could produce some kind of a power that would actually empower automobiles without gasoline. And, and ships without, such as nuclear fuel rods do today. So they are looking for something even better,
much
freer,
better,
cheaper, that could send starships to other galaxies.
Absolutely. Non-expendable sources of energy. They're looking for this kind of thing in this search. That's why CERN is so important. That's why it's kind of a mini United Nations right there on the border of Switzerland and France. It's really a global government right there in that little village of Myron. Scientists from all over the world trying to create what? They're trying to create matter. And I'm reading here from Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. The earth was without form and void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. The Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw the light that it was good. God divided the light from the darkness. Now, we as believers think this is a perfectly sensible summation of the beginning of creation. God spoke matter into existence, and as we have already noted, He holds it together after it's created. You know, JR, we've discussed this so many times in the past that the Jews have believed since time immemorial that God created the heavens and the earth, and they said the thing that He used for His creation was what they call the primeval light. That is, let there be light. And this light was called Or Haganuz, or primeval light. It was the stuff of creation. And if these scientists at CERN could actually lay their hands on that substance, they would do it. In fact, I think that's what they're after.
They're after the primeval light.
Yes, they are.
Amazing. Yeah, you said the earth has been seen as flat, being born on the back of a celestial turtle or a bird or some demigod like Atlas. And so uncivilized civilizations, unreligious, idol-worshiping civilizations have had all kinds of concoctions about what the universe is made up of. And they've all missed it. It's not until, the last 2 centuries, I guess, that knowledge has really become a matter of scientific research. And so at this point, we have all these scientists who are looking for the primeval light, the word of creation. They want to start another big bang, well, maybe a little bang, and they want to create a black hole. They want to learn how to travel in time. This is one of the purposes of this Hadron Collider, is it not?
Yes. As a matter of fact, a lot of people have said that if the scientists at CERN do what they wish to do, time travel could very well be a reality, using the forms of energy that will become available to them. More than that, however, I think it's anxiety that's driving this whole project. And I've written here I'm going to quote a little section out of this article that I've written. In his godless state, man lives in a growing condition of ecological anxiety. He has constant dread of wind, flood, fire, earthquake, the wandering earth-smashing asteroid, a burst of gamma rays from a nearby supernova, coronal magnetic ejection from the sun that could roast this planet like a marshmallow. And all of these fears have built up. And when you throw away God, you no longer believe in God, you've got to replace that confidence with something else. You have to eradicate your fear by some sense of being in control. Well, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to be in control. Well, we call it prophecy in the news for a reason. We take the news, for example, here's an ABC News clip. CERN creates 10 million mini Big Bangs in 1 week. They were reporting on CERN, JR, and they did it this way. That was their headline. They say, in 1 week, the scientists at CERN have created 10 million miniature Big Bangs. Why do they want to recreate what they call the Big Bang? Because they believe that in the nanoseconds after the bang occurred, the Higgs boson and the Higgs field united to form what we call matter. And from that point forward, the rest is history. The galaxies in the solar system, the planets, everything formed. And then man formed in some primordial slime puddle and evolved up to his present state. Now, that's what they believe. That's not what I believe.
Now, Gary, in the first chapter of Genesis, after God creates the heavens and the earth, the Bible says, and the earth was without form.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, without form,
no rhyme or reason to it?
What it
Just
simply
matter?
means is in a state of chaos, a state that lacked specific building blocks or lines of force. And we read in the Bible that God then organized that chaos, and out of it came creation. The Jews say that
intelligent design.
Yes, intelligent design.
Wow.
And the Jews call it the 10 utterances of God, in which he uttered certain things and the earth progressively took on order.
Now, if the scientists at CERN were able to create matter,
Yes.
the next thing they would want to do is put a little intelligent design to it.
Of course. And that's what's in their motive. When you read their literature, it's obvious this is only step one.
So,
step one is finding matter.
So they're not going to say, okay, we got some matter now. In 15 billion years, it's going to develop into some beautiful things. They're not going to want to wait around 15 billion years. They're going to want to say, let's take it to the laboratory and see what kind of intelligent design we can give this, what we can make it into.
Yeah, basically that's it.
That, to me, is the most blasphemous thought that a group of scientists could have, who have denied that God, in his intelligent design, designed the earth, and yet at the same time, they want to do what they claim God couldn't do. Amazing.
Well, JR, I remember the book of Job, and I remember how Job was tested. Job, a righteous man, was tested by God, and after all the testing, he had an interview with God. And the first words out of God's mouth as he spoke to Job, he said, and I'm reading Job 38:1 and following, then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up thine loins like a man, for I will demand of thee, and thou wilt answer me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. And God goes on and asks Job a series of questions. Were you there when I created the heavens and the earth? And of course, what can Job say? No. We have it from Genesis 1, from John 1, from Hebrews chapter 1, from the book of Job. It's all through the Bible. God created the heavens and the earth, and he regards man who would question this as a little bit out of his mind. God says, you need to listen to me because I created all this.
Until next time, keep looking up.
Prophecy in the News is a viewer-supported ministry sponsored by our many friends across America and in your area. For your gift of $10, you can receive a special edition of our current program on an audio CD, or for a gift of $20, we'll send you our programs on DVD videos. For either order, call the 800 number on your screen right now.